By the summer of 1969, Northern California was already frightened. 2 attacks, 3 confirmed deaths, 1 surviving witness, and a killer who had personally called the police to claim responsibility. But what happened next transformed the local murder investigation into one of the most famous criminal cases in American history. Because the killer was no longer satisfied with silence, he wanted an audience, and he was about to get one. On August 1st, 1969, 3 separate letters arrived at 3 different newspapers: the Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Examiner. Each letter appeared to come from the same person. Each contained details about the murders that had never been publicly released, and each included 1/3 of a strange coded message, a cipher. The writer demanded that all 3 newspapers publish the cipher on their front pages. If they refused, he threatened more violence. The threat immediately placed newspaper editors in an impossible position. Should they publish the message and risk helping a murderer gain publicity, or refuse and potentially provoke further attacks? The decision was controversial, but eventually, the newspapers published the cipher. For the killer, it was a victory. He had learned something important. Violence created headlines, fear created attention, and attention created power. For the first time, millions of people were reading his words. Investigators quickly examined the letters. Several things stood out immediately. The writer seemed intelligent, organized, careful, and eager to demonstrate superiority. The letters contained misspellings, but many investigators believed some of those errors may have been intentional. The writer wanted people to underestimate him, or perhaps he wanted to create confusion. The truth remains unknown. What everyone agreed on was this: the author clearly enjoyed manipulating people. The cipher itself appeared complicated. Rows of strange symbols covered the pages: circles, crosses, triangles, characters that looked almost invented. The public became fascinated. People copied the cipher. Families discussed it over dinner. Amateur codebreakers spent evenings trying to solve it. Police departments received countless tips. Everyone wanted to be the person who unlocked the mystery. The killer had successfully turned an investigation into a public obsession, and then something unexpected happened. The cipher was solved, not by the FBI, not by professional cryptographers, not by elite intelligence agencies. Instead, it was cracked by a school teacher named Donald Hardin and his wife Betty. Working together from their home in California, they noticed patterns. They made assumptions. They tested possibilities. Slowly, the message began to reveal itself. The solution shocked the country. The decoded text did not reveal the killer's name. It did not provide an address. It did not explain the murders. Instead, it revealed something even more disturbing. The message appeared to describe killing as a source of pleasure. The writer claimed he enjoyed taking human life. He discussed collecting victims for the afterlife, and he presented himself as someone operating outside normal morality. The language was strange, at times childish, at times arrogant, at times deeply unsettling. For investigators, the message provided insight into the personality behind the crimes. The killer wanted attention, but he also wanted control. He wanted people thinking about him constantly. He wanted newspapers printing his words. He wanted police studying his puzzles. Most importantly, he wanted fear. Every newspaper article expanded his influence. Every television report increased his notoriety. Every conversation about the cipher served his purpose. The killer was creating a character, a public identity, and that identity was becoming larger than the man himself. The letters also introduced a symbol, a circle crossed by vertical and horizontal lines. Simple, distinctive, memorable. The symbol appeared repeatedly in communications. Over time, it became inseparable from the case itself. Even today, decades later, people immediately recognize it. At the time, however, nobody knew exactly what it meant. Was it personal, religious, military, random? Investigators debated the possibilities. The answers never came. Yet the symbol succeeded in doing exactly what the killer wanted. It gave people something visual to remember: a brand, a signature, a mark of fear. The public reaction grew rapidly. Newspapers sold copies. Radio stations discussed developments. Television reports reached millions. Parents warned their children. Police departments increased patrols. The killer had effectively weaponized media attention, and unlike modern criminals using social media, he accomplished it through newspapers alone. What makes the Zodiac letters so fascinating today is that they reveal two separate personalities. One personality appears calculating, careful, methodical, capable of planning attacks. The other appears desperate for attention, eager to boast, obsessed with recognition. The combination proved dangerous, because it meant the killer was not satisfied merely committing crimes. He needed people to know about them, and that need created opportunities for communication. Investigators began examining every aspect of the letters. Handwriting experts studied pen strokes. Linguists analyzed word choices. Forensic teams searched for fingerprints. Every clue mattered. Every detail could potentially identify the author. But once again, the case refused to cooperate. Some evidence appeared promising, then led nowhere. Potential suspects emerged, then disappeared. The pattern that would define the Zodiac investigation had already begun, a constant cycle of hope and disappointment, progress and frustration, questions and uncertainty. As summer turned toward autumn, many people hoped the letters represented the end. Perhaps the killer simply wanted publicity. Perhaps the communications were more important to him than violence. Perhaps the murders were over. They were wrong. The Zodiac was not finished, not even close, because soon he would reveal the name that made him famous, a name that newspapers across America would print, a name that would survive for generations, a name still discussed more than 50 years later, the Zodiac. In the next episode, the killer officially introduces himself. The Zodiac symbol spreads across California. The threats become more frightening, and an entire region begins living in fear of a man nobody can identify. This is Echoes of Humanity TV, youtube.com @Echoes of Humanity TV.